finishing up the book of Luke today. Yesterday we went through in chapters 22 and 23, the plot, the Last Supper. Then in 23 we have the multitude rising against him and him going to, of course, be crucified. And how easily, over less than a week's time, people turned on him. He was Messiah, and now they're yelling, crucify him. So easily how people are led by their leaders. And so they put the responsibility on themselves. Doesn't seem like Luke does as much. He doesn't give as much detail on the crucifixion as a couple of the other Gospels. That's not a slam, it's just a statement. I was going through here and it's just, he's on the cross in the middle of 23, and then it just says on the 6th hour and the 9th hour, then the sun was darkening, and he cried out, Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit. Just saying that, at first I was thinking maybe there'd be a little more to the story. But then again, it's still got the good, proper, and the solid parts, so I'm not trying to be too critical. I think the good thing about all four of them is that we do get a big, deep flavoring of different parts of his life. Like I said, when we get to John, John will take about 12 chapters to cover the ministry of Christ, the complete, 3 years. Then he'll spend a large part of the book of John on that last week. And Mark is more of a shooting script, boom, 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 here's what happened. Matthew has a nice, strong feel to it. It cuts along at a good pace. Just looking at the difference between the four Gospels. But here we have him. He gives up the ghost. And it's like also he's being a bit of a, to give Luke a good pat on the back, he's like a newspaper reporter here, giving you the facts. Here's what we saw. Here's what the centurion saw. Here's Simon of Cyrene. So he's filling in some important parts. I don't mean to slam him. He doesn't spend a lot of time on the crucifixion. I guess, most people knew what the crucifixions were. They've even seen crucifixions. So, Father, unto the hands I commit my spirit, and having thus, he gave up the ghost. And then here comes, he's laid into the sepulcher by Joseph of Arimathea. The women are getting preparations to go put spices on the bodies. This is what you do for burial. They can't do that because we're shutting everything down for unleavened bread. Then there'll be another day when they can buy the spices, which is what we would call Friday. And then here came Sabbath, and as soon as Sabbath was over, early Sunday morning. So they would go, and they were going to, it's funny, excuse me, how they were going to go and put spices and things on a body that had been in the grave for 3 days. So, but that's what they were going to do. So, you don't get the idea that they were going in the morning to see him because he would have been risen, that they had all this faith and stuff in what he said. Because on the first day of the week, they came bringing spices they'd prepared. So they were doing their diligence, and this was out of respect and honor and loyalty, and this is what they were doing. So they came and found the stone was rolled away. There's so much surprise here. Let's not, let's see where these people are in real world. That, yeah, there was some surprise, even though he'd said it. They were surprised that he was actually out of the tomb. And all of us would be surprised. All of us should be surprised. This should be the most surprising point of all history. That you go to a tomb of a man who'd been clearly killed the previous week, who'd been stabbed in the heart, according to other sources, and who was dead. You could tell he was dead on the cross. And now here he is, the stone is rolled away. So they go and find the stone rolled away, and they entered in and didn't find the body of Jesus. They were perplexed, and behold, two were standing by. They were afraid and bowed their faces down to the earth. Why do you seek the living among the dead? These were angels there. There were angels. Pardon my eye. There were angels here. Said he is not here. He is risen. And so he told you the Son of Man will be delivered into the hands of sinful men and be crucified, and on the third day rise again. Now here these guys are giving them this information that they already had, but they didn't act upon. So they returned, and it was Mary Magdalene and Mary the mother of James and the other women that were with them. And they arose, and then arose Peter and ran to the sepulchre. So they go off, run back down, tell Peter and John go to the sepulchre. It says, and Peter came in, and he beheld the linen clothes laid about, and was wondering to himself what had happened. We stop the story there. Here is, they've gone to the tomb, and they're in wonder. I mean, he's not here. The difficult thing in reading this, and I already did it, is you want to jump into the other Gospels and fill in the blanks. It doesn't say John here, but I know John ran with him, and so that's recorded in other Gospels. And that's good. We get this independent evidentiary account. People will sometimes say, well, you get so much of a different story from all four Gospels. Yeah, but according to Lee Strobel in his book, Case for Christ, that's a good thing. You want witnesses to be similar but not exact. They're always going to have a different flavoring because they saw it a different way. But you take that and extrapolate the whole story. And that is actually a good thing to do. That's actually how we find truth, is by getting different witnesses and putting together the story from that. We stop and we tell the story of the men on the road to Emmaus. And there are two men that were on the road. They were like 6 miles away, by the way. There's two roads that go east, and one of them goes to Damascus, and then one of them goes to Emmaus. These men were on this road, and they come across another man. And that man notices that they're kind of sad. And that's like, why are you sad? And they starts walking with him and talking with him, and they start telling him about, the two men start telling him, well, don't you know what happened in Jerusalem? And they tell him the story and concerning Jesus of Nazareth. And then how he was taken from the chief priest and was crucified. And we trusted that he would have been him that would have redeemed Israel. And besides all this, it is the third day. So the idea is that they're telling the story. They even knew about the certain women. They knew certain women also in our company were astonished. So we're getting a little bit of a side witness going. Obviously, the women saw, they came back, told the disciples. These must have had a business journey or something, and they took off, these two men. And they're 6 miles away, and this would be later in the day. You know, it takes a while to walk 6 or 8 miles, at 3 miles to an hour. And so they're meeting with this guy, and he stops and he sits with them, and he tells them, O fools, slow of heart to believe all that is spoken, ought not the Christ have suffered these things? From the beginning at Moses and all the prophets, he expounded to them all the scriptures concerning himself. That himself gave it away. We just gave it away the show right there when he said himself. And they constrained, saying, they said to him, abide with us, for it is come evening, and it's far spent. So here's Jesus with them, you know, later that day also. And it came to pass, as he had meat with them, he took bread and blessed it, and their eyes were opened, and he vanished out of their sights. Boom, he's gone. They get up and hightail it back. And they rose up the same hour and returned to Jerusalem. And here you are 7 to 8 miles down the road. You turn around and go back. It takes you 2 to 3 hours maybe to get back. And when you get back, they're saying, the Lord is risen. He's indeed. And they told him the things that happened and what had happened at the breaking of bread. And as they spoke, Jesus stood in their midst. See, that's the cool thing. So if you want to put a time on this, the women come back, tell all the disciples. They go see that the tomb is empty, and they're doing their things now. They're going about their life. These men decide they have to go to Emmaus. Maybe they're going home or something. And then they meet Jesus on the way. They stay with him, and it's getting late in the day. And he reveals himself to them. He vanishes. They turn around and hightail it back, and just as they get back, Jesus appears to them. And as they stood, Jesus stood in the midst of them. Peace be to you. Man, imagine the shock. And here's Jesus revealing himself. And this would have been, you know, late in the evening. I mean, if it's getting close to evening, maybe it's 4 or 5 o'clock or something in the afternoon, when they decided to stop and eat, then you turn and walk for a couple hours. I'm speculating, you get back to where they are at 7 or 8 o'clock. And here comes Jesus. He's standing right in the midst. He didn't come in a door. He didn't come in the window. Boom, he's there. And they're terrified and frightened, supposed that they've seen a spirit. And he says, why are you troubled? Behold my hands and my feet. Hand on me. See, I am. For a spirit doesn't have flesh and bones. And when he had spoken, he showed him his hands and feet. And while they yet believed not, with joy and wonder, they said, have we any meat? And they gave him a piece of fish and honeycomb, and he took it and ate with them. You know, here they are, even with this happening. This is unbelievable, which we should be agog. We should be. This is amazing stuff, that he would just appear You know, he doesn't come in the door or the window, like I said. And he just appears but he's not a spirit. He's in the flesh. He eats with them and stays with them. And he said unto them, while these words I spake to you while I was yet with you, these are the words that I spake to you while I was with you, that all things must be fulfilled. And he opened their understanding. Man, here's where the Bible study gets real. Thus it is written, and it behooved Christ to suffer and to rise from the dead on the third day, and that repentance and remissions of sins should be preached in his name among all the nations, beginning at Jerusalem. So this is the beginning of the church here, which I'm going to go into the book of Acts next. And you are witnesses of these things. Behold, I send the promise of my Father upon you, but tarry ye in the city of Jerusalem until you are endued with power on high. And he's alluding to Acts chapter 2. And he led them off to Bethany, and lifted up his hands and blessed them. And it came to pass that while he blessed them, he parted from them and was carried up to heaven. And they worshipped him and returned to Jerusalem with joy. And they continued in the temple praising and blessing God. So they weren't even afraid now to go into the temple and bless God with what had happened. So wonderful. The witness stops here. He is risen. He's now up in heaven, we believe, sitting at the right hand of the Father. I may go back another day. I feel like I did breeze through this. For my own purpose, I breezed through this a little fast. I wanted to hit the high points. Man, I could have spent, one video on every chapter. But like I said, I don't want to do all the work for you. I'm going to go back and flesh out some of this for myself and really enjoy it. We should be enjoying these Bibles. We should be just getting into them daily for enjoyment, not just, the preacher guilted me to, or I guess I should as a good, responsible Christian. We should love this word. We should love the entire word. So that's the book of Luke, the wonderful story. And then later on, we'll be seeing the story of John. Like I was saying, Matthew and Mark were written about 50 AD. Now, they were told, these guys were telling the stories, but they wrote it down for posterity to be passed on to us. Thank you, guys. In 50 AD. He puts this together in 60 AD. And then we have John in 90 AD. Wonderful book. Thank you.